friend Harrison from Milford, Connecticut. It's good to hear from you again, Harrison. How do you think the Royal Rumble will affect WWE NXT? Now
Is something.
here we go.
Yeah,
That fine specimen Braun Breaker. Do you think he'll be in the Rumble?
I do think he'll be in the Rumble. For some reason, I have a vibe that he'll be in there. So here's what's crazy, and this is how I think it's going to affect NXT. So a month ago, I had heard this crazy rumor that I literally blew off. Like
Yes.
I took it like there's no way this is going to happen. It's not going to happen.
It's a
Somebody told
mistake.
me like, "Hey, there's a chance AJ wins the Rumble, but yet he challenges Braun Breaker for the NXT title, a la what Charlotte did a few years back when she challenged for the NXT Women's title." And I won't lie to you, completely dismissed it. Was like, absolutely not going to happen. Well, then what started happening? He showed up in NXT. He was, had the match with Grayson Waller. Then they had their little thing, and I was like, well, because AJ, remember we talked about this? I can't remember. It was maybe a couple months ago about how AJ's a guy that you can just immediately just throw back into the main event, and he's got credibility that everybody, because he was
Yes.
down here doing the tag thing with Omos, but it was like, okay, get him out of that, throw him back into the main event picture, bam, and he's established.
Yep. You get that. You can. It's that AJ Styles rub. AJ Styles has a rub that's bigger than WWE. He's got a little Japan on him. He makes stars. Okay, his programs with people get them over. His matches. Every time the AJ Styles match comes up, it's like, oh my god, that was the greatest match of the show. Oh my god, I'm still thinking about that Royal Rumble match with John Cena that was so amazing.
See, and here's the thing, like literally on Raw, he main events Raw with Austin Theory, and they go out there, and I think what AJ Styles has become, and there are other guys on the roster, by the way. There's a multitude of guys. I think what AJ Styles has become is the occasional reminder that, okay, yeah, you don't have to like the WWE booking, which a lot of people don't. Which is there's lots of stuff but I don't like either. But like occasionally they just have to remind you that they have as much like wrestling talent in the ring as anybody, and they
Yes.
put on a match that you go, all right, they can still do a wrestling match. But all that being said, I get back to our original point. I feel deep down inside, AJ misses the fact that he didn't get a little bit of NXT time. I think AJ wants to have every belt in WWE history, and I think the NXT belts are in that loop. I think he wants to be an NXT champion. By the way, folks, NXT is easier to work than traveling around the country
Yeah.
for Smackdown or Raw, whichever brand you put him on, which is going to be Raw because Friday nights are football, high school football, more specifically. So it's easier to go down to Orlando, work a thing, and then come back. He would
Makes
still
sense to
probably.
me.
I'm just saying.
Makes
Um,
sense.
I even think if he were to go on and win the NXT belt, I think that the tag belts wouldn't be too far behind. I think I could see him. I know at one point I had heard a rumor that he was going to become tag champs with Austin Theory because he liked Theory, but whatever. That clearly didn't come to fruition.
How deep of a well is Georgia to provide Austin Theory, AJ Styles, Aja Pereira, or now is Aja Smith the referee? One of the best referees I've seen in a long time. Never mind the
Yeah.
fact she's also a female referee. Um, I'm going to give you a prediction. AJ Styles eliminates Braun Breaker to win the Royal Rumble, and that's when the rivalry starts.
Could be. I could see that. I could see him eliminating him and challenging him. And I think the reason I think this is not as far fetched as it originally may have I've in my head would have been. I think with the thinning of the roster down in NXT and the or whatever, I think like guys quote unquote going down to NXT is going to be more frequent. It's an easy way to get some guys some ring like as far as some experience like wrestling somebody, that's a main roster guy coming down or for whatever reason. They can make it, especially with creative now, all falling under the Bruce Pritchard like regime of creative. It's easier to kind of coordinate that, whereas before the challenge was they had their own creative at NXT versus over here, so it was kind of hard to make things
storylines mesh. They don't change the guy's name. They don't have to.
Well, I
and
just
from
meant
what
from
I
just
hear,
how easy was it for Grayson Waller to, they tied it, AJ going down NXT, Waller coming up to Raw, and then the match happening on NXT. If it's all going through one channel, it's easier to make happen than it is the other way around. So, and
Shawn Michaels is doing the best job he possibly can in the absence of Triple H, the absence of Regal, the absence of Samoa Joe, the absence of Road Dogg, and all the other people who ran NXT. Yeah. I think Shawn Michaels has really came up, and people complain about the product, but there wouldn't be a product if it wasn't for him right now.
Could very well be the case. No, I absolutely agree with you. But I think the AJ thing could very well happen. I mean, our question is that something is that something you'd like to see? Email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com and let us know. Because it is something that, I think would be kind of cool to see, but what do I know?